to me, what's going on right now is a widening of the bid-ask between the United States and the rest of the jurisdictions of the world as far as regulatory approach. I think post the election of Donald Trump, you're seeing a more rationalization of the regulatory approach. I think that through the new appointments of the SEC and the CFTC, it's likely that a lot of the onerous prescriptive regulations that were adopted since 2008 will be moderated. I don't think anyone's going to get a free ride, but I do think that there'll be less prescriptive type regulations and more different approaches accepted. I think that's the exact opposite of what's happening in Europe. I think that with the implementation and effectiveness of MiFID II on January 3rd, I think that's going to have a really difficult impact on trading in Europe. I think there continue to be issues that arise under EMIR, the recognition of non-EU-based clearinghouses. I think there are just a number of issues that have uncertain outcomes, including the Market Abuse Directive, which came into effect earlier. I think people are still trying to understand how broad is the Market Abuse Directive and what's the impact. So I think the fact that you've got this dichotomy to begin with, and then on top of that, so it's called the cherry on top of the sundae, you've got Brexit. I think that's really interesting. I think that it's a great time for opportunity with the United States. I think that certainly at the CFTC, and I'm getting the sense at the SEC, they want to hear new ideas, they want to understand the new technologies, they want to understand what's the best approach to regulation. Again, as the acting chairman has indicated, we're not trying to make things easier for folks in the sense that you get a free ride on enforcement, but we want to be rational. I think you've seen that already in the adoption of the record-keeping rule. I think you've seen that adoption in the proposed rule on CCOs, chief compliance officers. So I think you're seeing these kind of developments already, and I think they'll accelerate under the CFTC very quickly. Less so at the SEC, although I think it'll happen at the SEC too. But the biggest wild card is this arbitrage. The arbitrage, how do you do business globally when typically you've got to comply with the toughest requirements, and ironically the toughest requirements no longer are Dodd-Frank, but in fact what's going on in Europe.